Hi, my name is Zander Pryor. I'm 18. I am a senior at Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts, and my portfolio is called Reclaiming the Narrative, an exploration of queer and non human identity. So, the idea for this portfolio was born in my ninth grade year when I was attending public school, getting bullied a lot for it, and I started writing as a coping mechanism. And I was just very, very acutely aware of the fact that people don't know much about trans people, like at all, and that their definitions and ideas of us, when they were aware of us, or were even trying to be positive and helpful, all came from a very sort of cisgender view. There was a lot of trapped in the wrong body of, but who are you really? Like being trans is some sort of costume, or it's some sort of persona that you put on, and then at some point you just take it off and you're still like a girl deep down, or you're still a boy deep down, or you're not non-binary. And so I realized that there was this really big lack, especially in theater, which is where I was at the time, of trans stories being told by trans people. I was actually quite lucky to be involved with some shows that had trans characters, but almost every single one was written by a cisgender person, and they followed like kind of the same arcs, and they held the same stereotypes, and they just weren't very uplifting to me as a trans person at a time where I really, really needed that. So I was like, I love writing, I love theater, I'm going to become a playwright, and I am going to fix this gap that I see in the plays being written and the plays being produced. And so that's how I started my full length parent, legal guardian, angel, other. It was just in response to not seeing anyone like me on stage. I thought that I couldn't be in theater and trans, and the only trans people I knew that were in theater were working backstage. They weren't able to be on stage or tell their stories or direct. And so I was like, I'm going to change that. And I also really wanted to fix the fact that in every play where I was playing a trans person, I was the one and only trans character. And, that's certainly true for some people's experience. But in my experience, there's you always know at least one other person. There like I can there's like at least like almost every person in my friend group is some variation of trans. Um Kaysen, who was my stage manager, they are trans and really helped me figure it out with my identity. And they and I just felt like if we show more than one trans experience, it'll be more helpful when it comes to people generalizing us. Because a lot of people think that, being a trans man and being a trans woman are almost exactly the same. They have no idea about non binary people, and they only have been sold one narrative if they've heard about us at all. And so I really wanted to remedy that. So I wrote this play that had more than one trans character. And it talks about the issues faced by queer people, but just existing as trans is not really one of them. Like internally, I find that cisgender people tend to focus a lot on like the horror of being trans, and I'm not gonna say it's always easy, but it's not a very positive representation of us. And I mean, I might not like my body all of the time, but it's my body. Like, it is something that I navigate the world in, that is me. And so focusing on the disgust, like the discrepancy, the incongruence of me, it's not really good for anyone's mental health. And it perpetuates that stigma against trans people by cisgender people. So I continued working on it. I eventually came close to finishing it my junior year, and I submitted it to this play festival called Young Playwrights Festival at the Blank Theater in California, which um, is like this nationwide festival for playwrights ages 9 to 19. And they ended up choosing mine as one of the 13, and I got to see it produced. And the most wonderful thing was the fact that it made them go out and cast trans actors. Almost half of my cast had to be trans, and they listened to me when I told them that I needed trans actors to play the trans roles. And so all of these trans people got jobs. And that's part of why it's so important to me specifically to be a playwright, because it forces people to create space for trans people. I'm a writer of all sorts of fiction. I think that, including trans characters in, novels and nonfiction helps. Any sort of representation helps. But when we're talking about a play, they then have to cast trans actors. They sometimes have to, call in like trans designers because our bodies can be different. They might want a trans director, to really bring out the humanity. And so it helps not just uplift me as a single trans writer, but uplift, all sorts of trans people in that area, in a place where we're not very uplifted right now.